Hey guys, I'm Duncan Wilson.
And I'm Sasha Syed, and you're listening to the Mortgage Sweet Spot Podcast, proudly presented to you by Mortgage Suite.
This podcast is your go-to source for expert insights, innovative strategies, and the latest mortgage trends to help you make the most informed decision regarding your mortgage financing. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, a seasoned real estate investor, or maybe somewhere in between, you've come to the right spot.
So sit back, relax, and get ready to discover your mortgage sweet spot. Welcome to episode 21 of the Mortgage Sweet Spot. Duncan's not here today because he is doing a Caesar salad eating contest. So he is away. So it's just me and Christian hanging out. Today we have a real estate lawyer. This is Christian Janisse. He's got Simplyclose Law here in Windsor. And he's got some exciting stuff to tell us about his firm. And he's going to explain a little bit about what he does on his side. So obviously we do the mortgages, we get the money. But at some point, the borrower has to go to the lawyer to close everything up. So Christian, just tell us a little bit about yourself and then about the firm and about what it is you do, and we'll jump into it.
Yeah, so we're predominantly an online law firm, and I know that scares a lot of people. We kind of started during COVID. That's where I saw the opportunity. Previously, whenever you were going to get a mortgage or buy a house or sell a house, there were always these things called statutory declarations, which had to be signed in person. So that was the only thing preventing somebody from doing a total virtual signing. Okay. During COVID, they lifted the rules saying you can do everything online because of COVID. And I was like, okay, I don't think they're going to go back. Like once they go into the 21st century, because law is very slow to move, I don't see them taking that rule back. So I saw that as an opportunity to start the firm. And so we predominantly do online closings. And by online, it's funny, like a lot of the times we have clients that are in Windsor. They might even be up the street, but it provides way more flexibility for closings. Yep. We frequently sign with people during their lunch break. They could have like husband and wife at two separate locations. Mm-hmm. One person could be on vacation or away for work. It just provides so much more flexibility. And we still go through all the documents. So we use a program that allows us to do, it's almost like Zoom and DocuSign married each other. Okay. So when people get freaked out by online, like, oh, you're just going to send the documents. Like, no, we still go through everything. And the person actually has to sign with their finger on their phone. Yep. So it's still like a handwritten signature. It's actually the exact same. And even when clients do come in person now, we actually just throw the documents onto like a big TV screen.
And just have them do it there.
And have it signed because it's so much easier. We don't have to scan paperwork afterwards. We both get copies of everything that you sign. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of flexibility, a lot of like efficiencies that way. So even when they come in person, we still do like the whole virtual signings. Sure. But it also allows us to do things a lot faster because that time that we had clerks like scanning documents, saving them, separating them, everything's online. So as soon as they sign, I just forward the email with all the signed documents. It's right in their inbox. They save it to the file and we're ready to go. We don't have to worry about documents getting missed or anything like that. Nice. So yeah, we started during COVID and since then we've grown. We're now in Windsor. Yeah, we're across the street from Spago's.
Yep. You guys were in Amherstburg before, right?
Yeah, we still have a satellite office in Amherstburg and then we have like our home base because we've got a team, like we've probably got 16 people now. Okay. One guy is a tech guy. He does all of our like software. So all of our software is like proprietary to us. We don't sell it. Nobody else has it. No other law firm is even able to use it because it's all like custom made for us. Yeah. Nice. Which honestly is kind of the reason why we're able to do things so much quicker is we've got a lot of automations like internal reminders, checklists so that we don't miss things. We have all these checks and balances that allow us to like zip through, make sure that everything's compliant. But then at the same time, we can go much faster. Once everything's uploaded, we just hit one button and it prepares the signing package. So like the clerks don't have to go through and like make sure everything's in order. Once you've checked everything off, hit the button, ready to go. Excellent. Yeah. So it's a lot faster.
So, I mean, if somebody's out of the country, like if somebody's like traveling in Europe or something, and before they left, they let you know that they had something going on, are they still able to do all the signing out of the country? Or is it like something they have to be in the country for?
Yeah, no, they can do it anywhere. I've signed with people in India, China. Obviously, there's a time zone, so we've usually got to accommodate, or they've got to accommodate their schedule for us. If you do a virtual signing, you have to, like the Law Society requires that we verify their ID electronically. So they have to use I don't know if you're familiar with Treefort.
I think there was something Treefort with Deeded that I did a deal with Deeded once.
Yeah. So they just take a picture of their ID, a picture of themselves, and it goes through like a whole database and like a security analysis. Yep. And then obviously I see that it's the same person. person. So if they're out of the country, it doesn't matter. We have everything to verify that it's.
So is your provider doing like the PEP, like the politically exposed persons check?
They do that, yeah.
So like in November, I'm pretty sure it was around November, October last year, they've introduced what's called Verifast, which is probably like your tree fort.
Yeah.
And like now they do like the PEP check and all that. So it's crazy that they have to do it with us and they have to do it with you guys.
There's a lot of overlap depending on the lender. A lot of times the clients will sign like the void check, the like pre-authorized payment forms with you, even the commitment. And some of the lenders make you initial like every single page.
Yeah.
And they'll do it with the broker or like the mortgage agent, and then they'll also have to do it with us.
Yeah. So we have our financing conditions that we have to satisfy with our clients, like income verification. If there's other properties involved, we need mortgage statements, property tax bills, and stuff like that. But then the solicitor gets a whole set of conditions. So what are your conditions like? Because I'm interested for my own self to know, like when you get the conditions from the lender, what does that look like for you?
It depends on the person that's borrowing the money. So if they own multiple properties, for example, like they have 3 rental properties or, you know, even 1 rental property, the lender will often require us to verify that there's only certain mortgages on that other property that they own. They'll make you verify the rental income, but they'll make us verify that there's, you know, 1 mortgage or whatever we disclosed in the application. And then they'll also make us verify that that mortgage is in good standing. Even though their mortgage, like the borrower is not getting another mortgage on that property, they still want us to confirm with that lender that there's no missed payments and everything's in, you know, good standing. That's the common one. The other one is they're pretty standard, like making sure that they're actually Canadian citizens or permanent residents if they're buying, making sure that it's not a matrimonial home. So we have to go through and like ask the clients, you know, you're getting a mortgage on this property, but you've indicated that you have a spouse. Is this going to be your family home? If it's not, then there's different statements that we can sign. If it is, then we need spousal consent. And the reason why the lender requires us to do that is it's all just about making sure that their mortgage is enforceable. Okay. So we're mainly checking the title, making sure that, okay, on the property that they are lending on, are there any issues? Sometimes there's like liens from solar panels, rental contracts. You can't do the like hot water tanks anymore, but some of them are still there.
Well, so like I've had it before where we sent like the file to the lawyer, and then the lawyer found out that the hot water tank was still on rental. Yeah. And then notified the lender, and then the ratios went over. Oh, so okay. It was a case where it was like, you know, the client was like, I don't want to deal with this. I'll just pay it off. Yeah. And they paid it off, and then everything was fine. It closed on time. But that was basically and now I know that when I see a hot water tank rental on an MLS listing, it's like, I'm like, okay, who's paying this off, or are we accounting for that payment in your ratios? Yeah.
Well, now you can just delete those from title now.
Oh,
so
really?
Reliance, Enercare, they used to put what's called a notice of security interest on the property.
It's like a lien.
It's essentially a lien, and it only entitles them to the hot water tank. So if they enforce it, they can come in, they can take the hot water tank. Okay. But if their first priority, like let's say they registered before this new lender back in the day, which is about last June, you would have to get permission from Reliance, because let's say you're lending with First National, they're going to say like, we don't want Reliance to have any interest. Doesn't matter if it's just for the hot water tank. We want first priority over everything. Sure. So you'd have to go through this whole process with Reliance to get them to agree to postpone, so that they agree that they're second to First National, even though they were registered first. But now we can just delete them now. So
I mean, when somebody's hearing delete them, if the hot water tank is still on rental,
and still have to pay it.
Yeah, exactly, right? You knew exactly where I was going.
But you still have to pay it. It doesn't delete the contract, but it does delete the fact that it like affected the title. Yeah. But a solar panel, for example, like sometimes people have solar panel contracts where they don't own the solar panel. They either financed it, or sometimes they'll rent their roof to the solar panel company. Yeah. And those things can affect like mortgage enforceability. Because let's say the mortgage lender is going to go enforce the mortgage. If there's a solar panel there that was registered beforehand, they're going to say, you can't touch those solar panels. Those are ours. Like they don't even own those. So the lender always wants to make sure that there's nothing that's going to affect their ability to enforce the mortgage.
Okay. So that's like getting right into it, eh? Like,
yeah, we have to check everything. Honestly, like here's a good story about like why the lawyers have to be involved, is that sometimes there's multiple parcels. So you'll have one property, and in your mind, you're living in one house, but let's say there's an alley, because this is what happened with this story. There was an alley in the back. Okay. And the alley in the back, for whatever reason, there was a private lender who lent this guy money, and they only registered the mortgage on the alley in the back, not on the parcel that had the house. So there was 2 parcels of land and they only registered it on one, and it was the wrong one. If they would have registered it on the house, at least that would have been better. They could have enforced the house, but the only thing that they could enforce was the alley. Like, so I can sell you the alley.
Okay.
They were in a power of sale. Our client was buying, and during the power of sale process, like they signed an agreement of purchase and sale. My guy was ready to close. It was a quick close. We find out, nope, they only registered the mortgage on the alley. They actually didn't even have the mortgage on the house. They have no authority to sell the house.
Wow.
So what they had to do to fix it was they had to get a court order. So they had to submit an application to the court. Took 3 months and it extended the closing date. It was a huge hassle. But that's because whichever lawyer registered that did not do a proper title search.
Okay.
Or skipped it or something, I don't know. But they registered it on only one parcel and not the other. And then that lender technically couldn't enforce that mortgage without going to court. So
wow.
A lot of these issues can be resolved, but you want the lawyer involved so that you don't have to resolve every issue, because that took 3 months.
I'm going to ever know about this.
Yeah, so that's what we do. We make sure that, okay, does this person actually own the property? The other thing is that a lot of times, particularly with older clients, they may have a spouse that passed away and the title is just still in, like, if your spouse passes away and you live at the house, like, you're likely not going to go to a lawyer and willingly pay money to change the title because it's not going to benefit you.
Well, probably most people don't even know they actually have to do that in that kind of case, right?
So it's either comes up when they go sell it or they go refinance it. Like, let's say they have a line of credit or they want to pull out another mortgage and we go, oh, hey, wait, there's 2 people listed on the ownership.
That's when you do your title search, right?
Yeah, we do the title search. We see there's 2 people listed, Sasha and Christian. Christian's dead. So we say, okay, hey, we got to make sure that this is legitimate, that you're not just trying to refinance the house without Christian knowing. So you'll send us a death certificate. We'll register a change of ownership, assuming there's a couple of technicalities, but assuming everything's kosher. And then that will make sure that the lender actually has like a legitimate mortgage and you didn't just get the mortgage without somebody not knowing.
Okay, we just waited 6 months so I can keep collecting that pension check after Christian died. But so that's a great segue into the next question, because a lot of people are always asking what title insurance is. So I always thought it was like in the States, you know, when you see this family goes on vacation and then they come back and then there's another family living in the house. Like, is that title fraud? That's title fraud, right?
Okay, not like living in the house, but before I go into the story about like that, when you go away on vacation, title insurance. So for example, the lenders, when they lend out the money, they require the borrower to pay for their title insurance. Okay. And for that one that I told you about with the alley, the title insurance company covered all the legal fees and the cost to go to court and the cost to rectify the title issue because it was registered on one parcel and not the other. Okay. So title insurance was the one that covered all of that. So that's why you get title insurance, because there was an error, an omission, or like the mortgage wasn't enforceable based on a title defect. The title defect being that it wasn't registered on the right parcel of land. There are stories, obviously they're probably less likely, but there was one recently, it was about a year ago in Toronto, where there was this family that was in another country and somebody actually listed their house while they were gone. They had people go to the house. They did showings and everything. They listed it, they sold it. So when they got back from being out of the country, their house was sold. There were people living in there and they were confused. They were like, wait, what's going on? And they said, what are you talking about? We bought the house. Like, we have the agreement of purchase and sale. We went through it. Like, everybody was so confused because we went through a lawyer, we went through this. So I don't know what happened in terms of how they were able to sell the house. They must have had fake IDs, or you'd have to know a lot of information to pull that off. Yeah. But it does happen. So title insurance will cover that as well.
Protects that, right?
Yeah. So the buyer will get to keep the house and they'll compensate the seller, or they'll find whatever resolution they find, but they'll make sure that.
Wait a minute. So I go away and then I come back 3 months later. Somebody's title fraud my house and sold it. Are you saying that the title insurance, whatever, they're gonna let the buyer stay in the house and compensate me?
Depends on what it depends on what you want. You might say, okay, you know what? Like, I'm willing to take the money for the fair market of the house and find another house, or they'll help find the buyer a new house of similar quality, but they'll work it out. But yes, usually if the buyer bought it innocently, they generally get to keep it.
So okay, like, how does that work? Because technically, like, I have a mortgage on the house is mine, it's in my name and that, but if somebody is able to do that, then like the person purchasing the house, where does the proceeds from that purchase end up? Is that like the person who title frauded and put the listing on?
They got to keep all the money. Now, generally,
Wow, that's crazy.
So here, this will help you with your business, because generally title fraud doesn't happen with houses that have mortgages on them because there's a lot more checks and balances. So what a lot of people say to do in the States particularly is that you should have at least a secured home equity line of credit on your property, even if you don't plan on using it, because it's a much harder to refinance a house with a mortgage on it. And a secured home equity line of credit is registered as a mortgage, and it's much more difficult to sell it. So like title fraud typically happens with like vacant land, for example. So what people will do is they'll drive down Leamington, they'll see a bunch of vacant land, they'll look it up online, they'll pull the title records, they'll see that there's no mortgage. It's harder to do the refinance for the vacant land because it's harder to get a mortgage on, but easier to sell. Because there's nobody living there, there's no mortgage. It's generally probably been sitting there for like 20 years, 40 years. So those, and like people don't really pay attention to, like, it's not like you drive by, like you don't really know, like you don't look at, like I've never looked at the title documents to my house since I bought it. Like why would you, like you're not going to go just randomly pull a pin.
You're not the only one, guys. You're not the only one.
You're not. So yeah, like vacant land, no mortgages. That's generally where like the fraud happens.
So all of my prospecting calls for the next month is going to be looking for people with no mortgages to put equity line of credits on to protect them, though. So expect a phone call from me, guys.
The funny thing is that it actually does protect them from a number of things. So let's say my wife goes to go refinance our house and we have no mortgage on it. I don't want to say that this happens, but it happens where people will get the mortgage. It'll go through a lawyer and everything without the other person knowing. Like they'll like if you find the right lawyer who's not paying attention, they call them dupes because they're just not paying attention. No, they teach you this. Like they actually teach you this in law school.
Really?
And like the title insurance company. Yeah, because there's a bunch of telltale signs. Like one of them would be, I've got to refinance fast and I put a lot of pressure on you.
Okay.
And then they'll have like excuses as to why they have to do certain things a certain way. And if you find a lawyer, for example, that's new, who may not be as experienced, needs the work, they view this as like, okay, I got a job to do. And the person who is like rushing you will have like a very legitimate reason. Oh, you know, my wife, or they'll have like a random person pose as their wife. Like there's a number of things that they could do and find out that they took money out of the house, and
wow, man.
Title insurance covers all that.
Yeah. Okay.
They obviously don't want to, but they do. And then for us in particular, and I think every lawyer does this, it would make no sense. You can click a box when you order the title insurance and it's like $25 more, and they add it to every file and it covers the lawyer's errors and omissions. So if the lawyer does end up making a mistake, the title insurer will also cover that. And then our office actually has additional coverage through FCT. FCT is who we predominantly use. We have additional, like it's called errors and omission complete, and I buy it for all the lawyers in the office. We once had somebody, like a law clerk, forgot to ask if there was a broker fee. So we send out the automated emails. You probably noticed this now. This stems from this because it happened once and I never want it to happen again, where the broker didn't tell us that there was a fee. It was a purchase, right? So there's not typically a fee. Like, I guess we didn't think there was typically a fee on a purchase. We didn't really think
lending, private lending only fees. A lending, never a fee. Somebody's charging you a fee for an A lender, call me.
It was one of those ones that was weird though, because it was like one of the typical lenders that doesn't normally have a fee. Anyway, it wasn't me on the file. It was another lawyer, and they missed the fee. And, you know, obviously I didn't want to go tell the mortgage agent, hey, like we missed the fee, but the FCT covered the cost of that. Good. So they paid the mortgage broker fee. And, so like they cover pretty much everything. Like if you miss a tax payment or if you forgot to pay out a hot water tank that you were supposed to, like they'll cover all of that.
Oh, that's good. That's
so
like
we
our
have extra coverage,
right?
It's in addition to errors and omissions.
Oh, okay.
So they got the error. I like to get covered up because like what happens with the deals is that there's just a lot of moving pieces, and you know, obviously we don't make a lot of mistakes, but if you make a mistake, it can be pretty costly. The same thing with title insurance. Like if you make a title insurance mistake, it's so expensive. So it's like one of those things that when you're trying to explain to clients, like they're like, oh, nobody's ever going to defraud my house. And it's like, well, till they do, and you realize that this $400 fee, that's a one-time fee, lasts the entire time you live there. Is it really worth the risk? Like no lawyer. So like you don't have to get title insurance, but then you have to get an opinion on title from a lawyer. And essentially no lawyer will even do a deal without title insurance because there's so much at risk for them if they do the opinion And then the lenders, it's just not even optional. So if you're buying with a mortgage, you have to buy the lender's policy. It's part of their conditions.
All right.
So
we got the wrap up for Maddie. So if you want to touch on a little bit of maybe there's some common things that people should know, like when they're coming in to see you, or that maybe they don't know, something common that you see that, just something good that you can give them about that.
The biggest one, and it kind of goes hand in hand with what you guys do, is the mortgages. Like I see so many people go completely unconditional on purchases because they want competitive offers. Obviously you have home inspection, which I think home inspection is super important, but in terms of mortgages, like they get pre-qualified. But what I've come to learn from doing it on the legal side of things is that different lenders or different agents, like there's different levels of pre-qualification. There's like, we ran the napkin, you're good to go.
The napkin. I love that actually. That's
like
hilarious.
We did the napkin math, you're good to go. They lift the conditions and then, like they find out afterwards, like, oh, wait a minute, house didn't appraise what you thought it was going to appraise. Yeah. You actually don't work 40 hours a week. You work 35 hours a week. Yep. And then they find out all these different contingencies, which then lowers the mortgage amount by 30,000. And they're like, oh, I don't have 30,000. How am I going to close? And we're like, do the math ahead of time and get a real I mean, I know you can lose your job and you can be house hunting, but like the amount of people that just go in completely unconditional, in particular on financing, is just wild to me, because then what ends up happening is that they're short money and they lose the deposit. We've had a number of deals fall apart because of financing, not both our buyers and even when we're selling. Yeah.
So like a lot of times on my side, especially last year, near the end of the year, I think my last 5 or 6 deals were last minute declines, and we're not naming any one specific institution or anything, but this is what they tell me on my desk. Yep. I told the agent or the person that, I make this amount of money per year and that I had this credit card debt and this car payment. And then they told me I could purchase for $500,000. And it's like, okay, did you provide them any documents? It's the first question I ask.
A lot of times, no.
No, I didn't provide documents. So like, I've always, like these guys here, Duncan and Sean, like they have drilled it into us that we need documents, we need SIN number, we need all the information, or they don't get anything firm whatsoever. It's a preliminary and it goes in writing in the email. You must have a condition. What they do after that is their choice. But for me, man, it is hard practice now where I won't even do a pre-approval meeting with somebody if they're not going to at least bring me T4s.
It's a good policy to have that, because oftentimes the lender will require certain debts be paid out from the sale.
Yep.
And they think that they have more money available than they actually have, because they're like, okay, my mortgage is this amount, but it's like, well, and I'm getting this amount from the sale, but it's like, okay, but they've also added a condition on our end that we need to pay out, a TD credit card or whatever, like some type of like line of credit. And then they're like, well, how am I going to have the money to close? And it's like, just making sure you ran all the numbers.
Yeah. See, that falls back on us because like, if anybody's worked with us, we always provide spreadsheets. So I have this beautiful template called the sale and purchase spreadsheet. And it's like, what is the expected sale price, balance, penalty, realtor fees? Like we put in everything.
Land transfer taxes.
That's
the one that I get the most, like all the fees that confuse people the most. Land transfer tax. They're like, well, $7,000 for what? And we're like, so you went through a realtor, a mortgage agent, we're now signing, and this is the first time you've heard of land.
Yeah.
So it can't and we try to explain it to them, but sometimes it's too late. Like it's, we don't get the mortgage instructions until like a week in advance. So we might not actually meet with the client. And if we have now added something into our introductory email to like let them know, like, the land transfer tax, this is what you can expect for like closing costs, just to kind of alleviate that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But yeah, like what you're saying, having the spreadsheet and like spelling it all out, because that's the biggest thing is like, honestly, if I get anything wrong, if I spell somebody's name wrong and if I get the numbers wrong, like those are the only two things that they pay attention to. So like they have to have the numbers down pat ahead of time.
Yeah. Well, you heard it here. He's got extra coverage for everything, mistakes, whatever, even though he doesn't make any mistakes. Man, Christian is the guy I work with the most. And it's just funny because I got Christian through a client that needed this quick closing. It wasn't quick closing on purpose. It was all this stuff with the lender. And it was the first deal we did together. I think actually David was on that one at the time.
Yeah.
But they got it done so fast. And then it turned out I had another deal that was closing quick. I called the office. They said they can do it. I had another one. They said they can do it. And then at some point it was just like, man, this guy is doing all the hardest deals I have. I have to send him everything now. So anyways, tons of experience. How can they get a hold of you? Where are you located?
We're on Erie Street, 625 Erie Street. You can email us hello@simplyclose.ca or just go to our website, simplyclose.ca.
Perfect. All right, that's a wrap.
Ladies and gentlemen borrowers, thanks for tuning in to the Mortgage Sweet Spot. If you have any suggestions for upcoming episodes or questions for our hosts, me and Sasha, throw them in the comments below.
And if you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe to our channel on your preferred platform. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or you can check us out on YouTube. Once again, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.